It's not possible. I didn't say it would be easy, Neo.
All right, we are back in session and we have Mr. Harris. Good afternoon, Mr. Harris.
How you doing? I'm all right.
Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
My name's Donald Harris, 87325.
Yes, sir, Mr. Harris. Let me introduce us to you. I'm Cheryl Renatza. Mrs. Ledoux is seated to my left. Mrs. Stapleton is to my right. How are you today?
All right.
Yeah.
It's cold
Well,
in here.
it's cold in there? Well, you can hang heat in our room, so we understand.
Yes.
Keeps us awake. So Mr. Harris, you've been through this process quite a few times, so you know the process. So I'm just going to jump right in and let's get started. Mr. Harris, you're classified as a third felony offender. You have a 120-year sentence that you're serving. Your parole eligibility date was November 1st, 2009, and your adjusted good time date is January 26, 2049. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris, your case has been assigned to Mrs. Ledoux. Would you answer any questions she may have?
Ma'am.
Morning, Mr. Harris.
All right.
65 years old, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I'll be 65 in October. October the 5th.
I think prison ages people.
Well,
I think prison ages people. Sir, you're a third class offender and you've been serving, is it 34 years on the sentence?
yeah, going 35.
So looking back, would you have robbed those two people at gunpoint if you knew what you would be facing today?
No, ma'am.
So why were you, what brought you to the point where you committed that crime?
Well, I just needed some money. And that was the only way I could get it at that time.
Really? Okay. Have you, what is your job there at David Wade? What kind of assignment do you have?
Well, they got us sweeping the walks and wiping the windows. Right now, raking leaves, doing yard work.
Okay. Let's see. You've done some improvement in your conduct, and it looks like the staff says that you're starting to not argue so much about whenever they tell you to do something. So that's a good thing. I have that noted here that you've had 100 write-ups in your time, and your last one was in 2021. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I think so. I ain't got my file on that one.
I've got pretty much everything on you. At least 81.
If you got it on file, I guess it's true.
I got the authoritative word right here. Oh,
Okay.
Mr. Harris, since you have been heard the last time, you've taken the class Thinking for a Change. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You remember taking the class in 2020?
Yes, ma'am. I got that right here.
Tell me what you learned from that class.
Thinking from a change, I learned try to think positive about most of the things I do. And most of my thinking is based up on going out there, being successful, building some businesses and some houses. It's a good course. I enjoyed it when I took it. And I think my thinking for a change is improved on what I see, you know.
I've heard that that's one of the best classes that is offered while you're down. Mr. Harris, you have only served, you have 120-year sentence.
Yeah.
And you've served not even half of that, you know. Why should we let you out now?
Why should you let me out? Because I done did over half of it already. I got a paper right here from the classification lady, Miss Victoria, where she's saying I have less than 30 years left on the whole sentence. And I had to do like 60 years. I had 60 years, 30 years on each sentence to do. And I done started on the second 60-year sentence. And I feel if you let me out, I ain't coming back to prison, no harm. I'm too old to be coming back to prison. I got kids, grandkids, and all right there.
Sir, I see that you were given a 120-year sentence.
260 years consecutive.
260 years consecutive.
And I did one already.
You've only been in prison 34 years.
Yeah, but I get double good time. So I had to do 30 years, 20 years for the parole, which made it 30 years with the double good time.
Yeah, for good time. Yeah, I saw that you had lost 255 days and then 175 were restored. So you had some of that restored and then you got 470.
Yeah, right here I got, when I went on the board in 2020, and the ninth month, the 8th, 2020, they gave me back 100 days. When I went to Camp F trustee, I got another 75 days of that back. I come up here, I got into victim awareness, and they gave me 75 days for that there.
Okay. I'm gonna defer to my colleagues.
Yeah, let me ask a couple questions, Mr. Harris. You mentioned, well, the record shows you did Thinking for Change, the class you really liked in 2020.
Right.
And it taught you how to think about things. But you got a write-up in 2021. I know this is why you were still in ENO, I believe, for defiance and aggravated disobedience after you did Think for Change. Tell us about that write-up. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am. I was back there on the road coming from the graveyard, and the shakedown crew came up. They came down through there and messed with me. So I'm trying to explain what he started saying. I don't want to write nobody up. So somebody done something to mess with me off the top. But the whole thing was based up on they taking me off the road, putting me over there at the bachelor quarter without me knowing it. So when they came and went to harassing me, they went to cussing, I went to cussing back. So they wind up taking me to the dungeon, but once I get to the dungeon, they didn't take my trustee. They put me back in the camp on the yard and told me they would go move me to the bachelor quarter, and that's where I went. When I left Angola and come up here, I had gave my trustee status back to get transferred because they weren't gonna move no Class A trustees. So that's how that went out.
And you wanted to move? You wanted to move?
Yes, ma'am. I had put in for a geographic transfer to come up here, but they wasn't gonna move no Class A trustee from down there.
So you gave back trust. Okay.
Yeah, I had to give it up.
You have family in that area?
Up here? Yeah, I got a brother stay right there in Minton. I got a brother, nephews. I got some children there. And I'm from Jonesboro down there, and I got children in Jonesboro too.
When's the last time they visited you?
I don't get busy. I stopped getting busy because when I got out the first time, my brother and them went through 2 brand new cars. So they said, if you go back to prison, that we ain't coming back down the road. So I couldn't blame them for that there. They burned up 2 brand new cars on my first joke. So I don't do the visit thing because I'll be all emotion when they leave, and I'll be out of my body by being locked up and they going back, and it hurts, you know?
Right.
So, but if you give me the chance and opportunity to go back and be reunited with my family, I'm just gonna be appreciated by all 3 of y'all.
Well, you know, I'm gonna listen, but I'm just, You know, I worry about the fact that less than 3 years ago, you had that episode where you were cursing the officer, the defiance and the aggravated disobedience. You know, if you would have kept your mouth shut, things might be a little different for you, you think?
Well, Mr.
Well, that's
Knox,
hard to do sometimes, I know.
hey, Mr. Knox, you already know how they shakedown careers and
I-
then goes.
I do. You just gotta,
Yeah, but let me show you what they did. The day I got out the dungeon, they put me over there at that bachelor quarter. You know what they did? They came back over there to the bachelor quarter. Now, I ain't on the road. I'm at the bachelor quarter. They come over there and sat in the parking lot while I'm doing the weed and waving at me. You see what I'm saying? So the whole thing was nothing but a setup.
you still gotta think before you speak. You gotta think before you speak. Let's talk about your time at Wade. Have you had a write-up since you've been there?
Oh, man.
Now, why do you think that is?
Because I saved myself and I mind my business like I was doing in Angola.
What is your job?
Up here,
Yeah.
I be sweeping the walk-in.
That's you told us that. I'm sorry. You did tell us that. Are you enrolled in any classes?
I just did the victim one. That's the only one I've been in. And I got everything that they teaching up here. I already got that in this.
Right. So if you could speak to your victim, Mr. Harris, what would you say to your victims? There's 3 of them, I believe.
3 of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would apologize to them for what happened, what occurred and what happened. You know, I'm sorry, you know, and ask them to forgive me.
All right, I just have one more question. You mentioned to Ms. Ledoux that, you know, the reason you committed that crime was because that was the only way to get money. What did you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Because I was broke. I ain't had no money in my pocket. And now that my father up there done blessed me with all this wealth down here, I'm going to go invest.
Yeah, but you were what, almost 30 years old when that happened?
Yeah, going on 30.
Weren't working, you didn't have a job. How were you supporting yourself?
Yeah, I had a job. I had a car, but I still needed money. I just needed money.
What did you need money for?
Because I wanted a business and I ain't had the money to get it.
So that day, you just wanted money to start a business. That's what you thought you were doing?
No, I thought I was getting some money to save up on to get a business started. That wasn't enough money. So now that I have enough money, I could go and invest it in some businesses and build these houses that I promised people that I was going to build for them.
So what if you have a business and somebody comes to you and says, I need some money, you say no, and they pull out a gun and say, well, I'm just going to take your money then.
And I'm going to say, you can have it.
I'm
going to give it to them.
Careful how I don't know that your thinking is. How would you get money if you're out and you didn't have the money from your father? How would you get some money?
I'll get a job. I'll pick up drink cans off the street, but I wouldn't rob nobody.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I have a couple of your victims did write in the past, in 2009. They weren't able to get in touch with them this time. But both of them said that they were scared to death, that you had a gun to their head and that you were threatening to kill them. So, I mean, and then so you add that with your statement just now that you needed money, and instead of doing what anybody else would do, think they got to get a job, these were women and you just put a gun to their head, take their money.
Okay.
And so, I mean, the same thing could happen. You get out now and you lose your money. What's your alternative thinking? You say now you would pick up cans instead of doing that?
Yes, ma'am. If that's what it takes for me to have money, and I could be broke, it wouldn't really matter. I would still wouldn't go and pull no robbery off, rob somebody for what they done work for. You know, I understand the consequences to all of it now. But I'd rather pick up drink cans and sleep under a bridge than to come back to prison or go to jail for rather, for taking something that don't belong to me.
Right. And that's the whole point.
And that's the whole point. I would never do it again to nobody, man, woman, or beast, or whatever it considered to be,
Warden Dozat, anything else you can offer?
Yes, ma'am. Donald hasn't, his conduct record has been good since he's been here. He does have a nice recommendation from Warden Tolliver in regards to his work performance. Donald and I spoke last week. I encourage him to maybe take advantage of some of our educational programming. It doesn't look like there's a definitive plan for employment, and I know we're getting a lot of programs and certifications here in the next few weeks that I think he could benefit from participating in some of those. And so that would be my recommendation, to be able to try to get some type of skill set under his belt so that he'll have an employable skill when he does get out.
I appreciate you saying it. Thank you. Mr. Harris, is there a statement you'd like to make to us before we vote?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I got the money to go build my businesses, and I got all the blueprints and everything drew up. And all I ask y'all for the opportunity to let me be free, to grant me my parole and let me go on and do what I got to do.
All right. Yes, sir. I think we're ready to vote. Mrs. Ledoux.
Mr. Harris, your file was quite long. I read all of your information several times. Law enforcement and your victims are both very opposed to your release at this time. I know you've been down this path with the parole board several times, but my vote today is to deny.
Mrs. Stapleton.
I agree. I vote to deny based upon law enforcement opposition and strong victim opposition.
All right, Mr. Harris. Yeah, I worry about you. And I do see you've been to the parole board multiple times. I would vote to grant your parole only after completion of the job skills training program that Warden Dozat has mentioned. Because I know you want to go open your businesses, but that's not as easy as you think it is. You need some skills to be able to get a job, but you've received 2 votes to deny your parole. So today your parole's been denied, sir. When that concludes our business at your facility, we're going to adjourn at 12:35. Thanks for helping us out.
Have a good day.